Perek Ezru Neshech, DAF Samach Aleph, sponsored the Refuah Shalema for Chava Bas Chana. The Gemara on the previous DAF established that there is no difference between Neshech and RABBIS. The different terms indicate that one who takes Ribbis Ketsutza violates two negative commandments. Torah states, "Es kaspecha lo sitein lo beneshech v'marbis lo sitein ochlecha." The pasuk mentions neshech in respect to money and ribbis in respect to food. The Gemara explains how all the laws of taking interest apply equally to both neshech and sarbis. Number one, ribbis applies also to money and neshech applies also to food. Another pasuk states, neshech kesef neshech ochel. Since it also states, kol davar asher yishach, money is included. Therefore, by hermeneutical law, we apply the mention of neshech kesef to ribbis, including the laws of ribbis to money. Number two, all forms of neshech and ribbis apply to the malva as well as to the lova by way of a gzera shava. The word neshech mentioned concerning the malva includes him in all the laws mentioned concerning the lova. Ravina does not require the gzera shava. The verse structure concerning the malva states, "Es kaspecha lo sitein beneshech uvamarbis lo sitein ochlecha." The two forms of ribbis coming together in the verse indicate the Torah applies both to food and money. Number three, even though the Torah mentions specifically money and food, kol davar asher yishach applies ribbis and neshech to all things. The next discussion in the Gemara concerns the necessity for the Torah to teach the prohibition of theft, price fraud, and taking interest. Torah should have taught one to learn the others. The Gemara explains why that was not possible. Number one, paying interest is novel because the borrower cannot consent to pay interest, whereas one can forego a theft and price fraud. Number two, theft is by force, whereas the other two are willful. Number three, the defrauded party may be unaware that the item was overpriced, whereas theft and paying interest are cases where victims are aware of their predicament. The Gemara claims even if the Gemara stated two out of the three, number one, taking interest is with the consent of the borrower, whereas theft and price fraud are without his consent. Therefore, the prohibition of interest could not be learned from the other two. Price fraud occurs in business. If one needs an item, he may pay more than its market value. Theft and interest are not the result of business. Therefore, the prohibition of price fraud could not be learned from them. Number three, the Gemara concludes gezel, theft, could be learned from the other two. The Torah teaches gezela to add an additional lav to delay paying salaries to workers. The Torah teaches geneva to teach that one is liable for theft even if he did not intend to steal, only to cause anguish to the victim. In addition, even if he stole to pay kefel, the double payment to help a poor person too proud to accept charity, he is still liable for geneva. Torah mentions the prohibition to own false weights, even though it could have been learned from price fraud and paying interest, to include one who buries his weights in salt to make them heavier. He is liable even for making them heavier before he actually uses them. The pasuk says, "Lo yisasu ave b'mida b'mishkol v'masura." You should not do wrong in judgment regarding number one, midah. One is prohibited to measure land to divide an estate with ropes, part in the summer, part in the winter. The ropes stretch more in the winter. Number two, mishkol. One is prohibited to bury weights in salt to make them heavier. Masura. One should not pour wine quickly so it froths, making the utensil look fuller than it actually is. Torah mentions Yeshivas Mitzrayim in relation to many topics in the Torah to teach that just as Hashem distinguished between the Egyptian and Jewish firstborn, so too he will distinguish in regard to number one, ribbis, one who uses a Gentile to lend for him to a Jew to collect interest on a loan. Number two, mishkalos, one who makes his weights heavier with salt. Number three, tzitzis, one who dyes tzitzis with indigo, claiming it is techelis. Number four, shratzim, one who mixes the entrails of non-kosher fish with the entrails of kosher fish. In addition, the Torah mentions the term ha-ma'aleh in reference to shratzim. He brought us up from Egypt, meaning he elevated us by prohibiting the eating of repulsive foods.